Okay, good afternoon. My name is Don Tencher, Director of Athletics here at Rhode Island College. I want to welcome everyone to the Maury Center as we announce our new men's basketball coach. The new coach is fully aware of the expectations of being a coach in the Rhode Island College athletic family and the effort it takes to build and maintain the culture of excellence that we have developed here. I am told our next coach, as a high school student, sat right outside on the quad as he contemplated his journey in basketball that ultimately took him to where we are today. The journey started that next fall, where the young coach became a student manager at Vanderbilt University, followed by a job as video coordinator following graduation. It was then on to assistant coaching positions at Monmouth, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland State. His last stint brought him back to New England, where it all began as an assistant coach at Holy Cross. At this time, I would ask President Warner to join me up in front as we welcome our new head coach, Coach Sam Ferry.
Before I give up the mic, and I'm not giving it back to you, Don, but I just want to join with Don to say welcome, Sam. We are pleased to have selected you, and we are even more pleased that you have chosen us. So we really look forward to a continuation of a historically fine program and to move it back into the limelight. Now, you have serious competition from the women's side, you know. So that's going to be a tough act to replicate, but we think you're capable of it, and we look forward to doing it. So let me call you up and say a few words.
Thank you so much.
But welcome to Rick.
Thank you. Thank you, President Warner. Thank you, Mr. Tencher. Thank you to Joanne and to the search committee for the opportunity to lead this program. In recruiting, there's a lot of people who recruit in here, but we like to say in recruiting, instead of recruiting, we like to go get players. There's value in figuring out who you want, and then instead of just recruiting them like everybody else, you go get them. And that applies to this job right here. I'm from Providence. I spent time in East Greenwich growing up. I graduated in Providence. The last 4 years we've lived in Rhode Island. The last 2 years we've lived 4 minutes away. Providence is home for me and my family. Mr. Tencher mentioned it. I remember not only did I sit out front with Bob Walsh, but I remember the 9 years right after that. Maybe it was 8. He went to 8 NCAA tournaments in 9 years. I followed that. I'm familiar with that history, so I know that you can have success here. And even walking around campus the other day, a few days ago, as my wife, Elliot, was strapped to her chest, but about halfway through walking around campus, Eileen looked at me and she said, you know, we're both coaches now. She looked at me and said, hey, Sam, you can sell the heck out of this place. So we're so grateful to be here, so grateful to be the leader of this program. As you go through the process of pursuing a job, you learn a lot. I started off by being familiar, but you learn a lot as you go through it. So I did, before I share my story with you briefly, I did write down a couple things I learned. Number one, when Don Tencher hires you as his men's basketball coach, you start off on the hot seat. And I like that. I want it that way. I respect that. Joanne D'Alessandro, not only is her jersey hanging up here, not only is she in the Athletics Hall of Fame here, but what everybody told me is true. She's in the Wonderful Person Hall of Fame. You know, I could tell immediately she's kind, she's smart, she's loyal, things that I deeply respect, and I really look forward to working with you. Eric and Scott, where'd Scott go? There you go. I learned maybe 30 seconds into that Zoom interview that the two of you care very deeply about this program. almost as deeply as you care about the Bruins, so that says a lot. I learned that Jenna Cosgrove is a star, something everybody already knows here. I learned that we love the color burgundy, and we hate that bright red color in New Hampshire. I'm about that. I learned the Little East is a great conference, and I learned that from 2007 to 2014, a whole bunch of banners were hung in this building. So there must have been some tremendous teams. I'm familiar with a lot of them. And finally, I learned that there's around 45% of the student body here, is my understanding, is first-generation college students. And to me, what an unbelievable opportunity to impact young lives. You know, for me, academics and service are two big reasons why I'm in college athletics. And to be at an institution like this that provides that type of service, that's a fit for me. So briefly, my story, I wrote this part like a practice plan, okay? I'm going to start with what's the most important to me, and then we'll get into what's the most relevant, and then I'm going to finish with late game situations. That's how I'd like to finish every practice. So first of all, what's the most important to me? That part is easy. They're sitting right over there. My wife, Eileen, we've been together since Monmouth 10 years ago. Not only is she my best friend in the world, but she's the love of my life, and I'm so grateful that she's here with me and she's supporting me, and that she's my wife. And the little girl over there, Elliot, with the anchors on her collar, you know, she taught me. We had her in August. She's almost 9 months old. She taught me that I could enjoy doing something more than basketball, and it's not even close. So the most important thing in my life is sitting right there. As far as my story, I wouldn't feel right if I didn't acknowledge the four head coaches that I worked for, starting with at Monmouth University. King Rice was the first person who believed in me as a coach. He brought me into the profession. At the University of Pittsburgh, Kevin Stallings, who I was actually with in undergrad, I joined him as an assistant coach at Pittsburgh, and our relationship went from mutual respect, because I started as a manager, to deep, deep friendship that I cherish to this day. Dennis Felton, who's actually coaching now at Providence College. He's an assistant coach over there. Not only is he the kindest human being ever, he set the bar in my mind for how hard you can work as a head coach. And lastly, Brett Nelson, my boss, my head coach the last 4 years. You know, the easy line is he taught me how to be a head coach, and that's true. But more importantly, he's a friend to me, he's a mentor to me, and he's someone I admire and so grateful for his friendship. But what I'd like to do now is, and I'm not going to keep you here too long, okay? But if I boil it down to who am I was against advice of someone who I trust. They say don't emphasize being a student manager. You know, you're 34, you look younger. You know, but I'm a head coach now. I'm going to trust my gut here. All right. Being a student manager laid the foundation for who I am as a coach. There's three things it comes down to for me. Number one is humility, okay, being humble. I started off by handing out water bottles and wiping up sweat. That's how I got into the profession at 17. So we're going to get a group of student athletes in this program who have humility. They are entitled to nothing. I'll point to the pastor, Bob Walsh, on that one, okay, who's also, Mr. Tencher mentioned, is a mentor of mine. I'm looking for humility, okay? If we don't have T-shirts to travel the same to games, we'll go figure it out. We'll go raise the money. You know, if the prep school invitational is in this gym, we don't have a gym, you can drop us off on the blacktop. We'll go practice on the blacktop. We're going to have humility, and then we're going to be hungry, okay? I'm hungry. I want to be surrounded by student athletes who are hungry, who wake up in the morning, and they want to go get it. They want to prove something. And then finally, and most importantly, we're looking for student athletes who are selfless, who are about the team. You know, people talk about all the time, like, what's your why? Whether you're an administrator or a coach, like, what's your why? And about 4 or 5 years ago, I realized I should probably try to answer that question. And my why is simple. I'm coaching for a moment. And that moment is in the locker room after the season, the last game was just played, the last horn just went off, and we're in the locker room, whether we're sitting or we have our arms around each other, and we have two emotions. Number one, we're crushed that the journey is over. And number two, we're so grateful that we were a part of a group that took our egos out the equation, bought into what was going on, bought into what the coaches were saying, and now we have relationships that are going to last us a lifetime. Can I do that every single year? That'll be tough. I've been a part of 17 college seasons now that don't happen often, but that's my why. If you're looking for guys who are humble, hungry, and selfless, they're a good fit for me. So that's what's the most important to me. That's kind of, as far as my story, what's the most relevant. You got to finish with a late game situation. You got to get it across the finish line. The two people in my life who have gotten me across the finish line is, number one, my dad. My dad, who knows nothing about basketball, by the way. He told me at Vanderbilt, I thought very briefly at Vanderbilt, considered walking on, and his advice to me in that moment was to work on my free throws. And I had to explain to him that my hitting free throws was not going to contribute to the success at Vanderbilt as they attempted to beat Kentucky in the SEC. But he's always supported me. He's always been proud of me. He's always been a great role model. And lastly, my mom, who has been I could go on and on about my mom, but I'll leave it at this. She always told me that on her tombstone, she wanted it to read that she made those around her better than they thought they could be. And my time at Rhode Island College, if I can look back and I feel like I made people around me better, then to me that will have been a success, and in the process, we will have hung a whole bunch of banners. So thank you so much for being here and welcoming me here.
Welcome to the family, Coach. President Warner, thanks for being with us today. Media, thank you for being here. That concludes this momentous occasion. Introduce yourself to the coach. There's some refreshments there. Thank you very much.